we've had a conversation on this show over and over and over again, and I say the words over and over and over again, and it sets off my friend Chris Brockman across the aisle. And it is the time of year when players at the quarterback position hit the open market and get the market value just because it's their turn, even though their resume does not scream
right.
$40 million a year, does not say they could get paid better than Patrick Mahomes just because it's their time. Drives Chris nuts, right? Drives you crazy. Daniel Jones appears to be that individual right now, that his contract's going to start with a 4, which drives you nuts. You have a former National Football League executive who knows the way it works right here. Ask him the question.
Do teams know that they don't have to pay these guys that much?
If he is not franchise tagged, he'll get it.
Why?
Because you can't get these guys. You know, the usual...
I can get a guy that is as good as Daniel Jones. There's like 15 of them out there.
Chris, now be nice to the man.
You're right. No, I understand the argument. The usual
he's from the Northeast.
Sorry, I don't mean to yell.
Okay.
The usual suspects for quarterback free agency are, nothing against these guys, Josh McCown, Tyrod Taylor, Ryan Fitzpatrick back in the day. You know who these guys are.
Yeah, of course.
Right? If you get someone like Daniel Jones on the market, look at Kirk Cousins years ago, they're going to get because there's nothing out there. You can't get these players. Look at Deshaun Watson was basically a free agent. Now, I agree with you. There's no middle ground. There's the rookie level, and then there's these $40 million quarterbacks.
Why isn't there a middle ground?
Someone's got to do a deal with someone who's not going to be a free agent because they have leverage and say, let's do a $20, $25 million deal. And before this season, I'd like, yeah, Daniel Jones will sign for 20 to 25 over 5 years. Now he won't.
Because he won one playoff
And
game?
his answer is the Giants should say, there's the door.
Well, they have the tag at 32, or they do a deal. But if you're doing a deal, they're going to offer less than 32 a year. How's he going to do that? You know, Geno Smith, can you imagine Geno Smith might not be happy with a $32 million franchise?
I'd rather have Geno Smith than Daniel Jones.
These guys, would it be for the year, I think you could have gotten them for 15 a year, 20 a year max.
The other aspect of this conversation that Chris is asking about, I'll ask it for you, is will we ever see a team, let's say the Giants, or could be that team right now, screw it. We are not going to pay that much money on our quarterback. We love him. We love Daniel. You know they love Daniel Jones, okay? And there's many reasons to love him, but they're not going to pay him that much money just because the market says that's the cost. And they say, we're just going to go back and start again and draft somebody. Will we ever see a team run their franchise like that, Andrew Brandt?
I think people are afraid to do that because the quarterback's so important and trusting it to a young guy. Yes, you've got the examples of Burrow, Hurts, and Herbert. They don't come along much. I wrote in Sports Illustrated this week, there is a myth that if you pay a top quarterback, you can't build a Super Bowl team around him. I think that's BS. I don't subscribe to that. I think well-managed teams can pay a quarterback $40 million and have a Super Bowl contending team every year. But listen, these guys are overvalued. Look at the draft. They're all pushed up on the draft when they shouldn't be drafted. They're drafted early. They're pushed up in free agency. This is where we are. They are everything in sports, in this sport. And yes, Daniel Jones either going to be franchised or going to get more than 32 a year. Same with Geno Smith. We would have never said that 6 months ago.
Why can't we see more teams operate the way San Francisco did this year? Now, it was because of necessity, because of injuries, but they took the last pick in the draft and were a play away, an injury away from being a Super Bowl team. And if you look what they did, they surrounded him with great talent on both sides of the ball.
You can operate that way if you know the last pick in the draft is going to play like Brock Purdy.
They didn't know he was going to play like Brock. They didn't know he was going to play like
That's
that.
what I'm saying. They
got lucky. But he was the last pick in the draft.
But you're not going to operate your franchise
he wasn't
out of
a first round. Why not?
Because you could get lucky? You're going to really operate your franchise like that?
The interesting thing, Chris, is they did get lucky with Brock, but they spent 3 number 1 picks for the guy who's going to start above Brock next year.
And imagine how good they'd be if they had those picks.
They mortgaged the future for Trey Lance. Absolutely.
But they hit on all the talent
We're
around them.
going to see how that works
If you have
out.
a good front office and you hit on your draft picks, obviously easier said than done. Why can't you just roll the dice every 4 to 5 years with a first-round quarterback?
I love it. What do you think? Go ahead. I see you got a guy right here. Can answer all your questions.
I understand it. I've heard it before. I don't think a team's ever going to do that.
Why? Because it's too risky?
Damn straight.
Because you are building your team around this player, and you're going to pay what it needs to. And again, this is my feeling.
Jobs are on the line too, right?
I don't
Your
think
jobs on the line.
jobs are on the line. I don't think.
Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl. He's a third-rounder.
And they paid him.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.